Digital People at Work, how a governed digital workforce creates value. In this episode, Jim Barker, the Chief Revenue Officer at Cooperative Computing, reveals how digital people perform real work with speed, consistency, and governance. You'll learn how digital employees like Leah operate and how she handles bid requests and why connected data is essential for better customer experiences. I'm your co-host Anthony Pearl, and whether you're just starting your digital journey or looking to accelerate your existing efforts, it's time to get enabled digitally.
Jim, let's talk about the digital workforce. I love this phrase that you've kind of coined, digital people, digital workforce. Give us a little bit of an explanation of what that actually means.
Yeah, Anthony, this has been on our mind for years, and it's really around, we can do so much these days with automation and personalization. If you can get access to the data, you can do a lot with automation and personalization. And so we've had this concept of, man, that we should have a digital workforce that can actually do the work. And so we naturally started with ourselves to say, okay, let's start stamping out what does one person do that we would like to replicate. And we just started replicating that. Now, what that ends up being is these are personified, governed employees. They're digital employees, and we'll put avatar on them. Some of them show up we got one client that has Leah showing up for Teams meetings with the Salesforce, and it's an avatar of Leah there, and they can interact with Leah. They have fun interacting with Leah, asking questions. Leah tends to be in this area of their business. It's an area that most of their sales team doesn't want to be in because it's very high transactional volume. But she's smarter now than anybody else on the sales team in that area now. So it's fun because they get on and now have a little less test Leah on their sales meetings from time to time. And so part of it is our whole approach was, let's go build out the function of what these people need to do. If it's all digital, it's a keyboard. It's like, okay, we can usually, unless someone's having to get up and go get a cup of coffee or go get a glass of water or something, then it's probably pretty doable. And so we started launching these last year. We've got, I will say we've got about a dozen of them now at different types of personas, I'll say, out in the market, inside sales, customer service, things of that nature. When you think about what those people are doing, they're really doing a lot of the repetitive work that we need to do. They're doing it 24/7, so around the clock. But they're also doing a lot of repetitive information. Leah, as the example I was giving, this organization has Leah handling all the Salesforce stuff for this product line. This product line they get about 120 inbound leads a month for a product line that's really could be probably $6 or $7 million in revenue. Right now, it's like $3 million, but they have a high desire to get it to 10 million with Leah, or maybe another digital person if they need it. But right now it's likely going to be Leah. And so what ends up happening with this is that this particular company has people that request bids. And as they request bids, they get about 120, 130 a month now. As they request these bids, the emails come in. It usually comes in through email. They come in PDFs, Excel, Word documents. Sometimes it's just emails that are typed up. They could get a call in, all of these types of, and it's different audiences that are calling too. The types of buyers are different. And so what Leah does now is Leah takes those inbound requests for bids. She analyzes them. She looks through them. She scrubs them. She looks at their availability, the product availability and all that, and turns around and actually gives a bid back to them. And usually this is happening in less than 10 minutes. Now, what was happening before is they had about 8 or 10 salespeople, and these are enterprise salespeople. And these salespeople are selling, each one of these salespeople have 3 million or greater annual quota. And so what they were complaining about was, hey, we're getting a lot of this inbound lead flow for these low transactional dollar amounts, but we're being told we have to go check on them. So the organization said, okay, we're going to hire in, some people right out of college to help us with some of that. So they got a couple of people in there. A couple of people couldn't catch up. So by the time that happened, they reached out to us. They'd heard a little bit about digital people, and they reached out to us, and we got engaged and said, hey, no, don't hire any more people. We think we can help you accommodate this. And so we built and put Leah in place. And so that's it. She's a governed body. She's got an email address. She's got a full name, first name, last name. She responds to customers all day long. She gets all the updates, and it's become a fun experience for them, but it's also a very comforting experience knowing that Leah's not governed by LLMs out in the market. She's following a protocol that's been developed internally. It says, here's how we're going to make decisions and run our business. And she follows that protocol. She'll use some of the LLMs just like we would. We'll use generative AI just like everybody else, and she will too, but she's making her decisions as though she's a person inside their environment, making decisions based on how they want the decisions being made, which also includes, giving the bids, looking at availability. Their availability is pretty complex. So looking at availability of their product. Their product is mobile LED trucks. They've got about 250 mobile trucks that roam around the United States marketing. They have marketing on them. And so when these leads are coming in, she's trying to figure out, okay, someone needs 7 trucks in these 7 different markets over this 10-day span of time, and they want to bid on how much it's going to cost them. And I've got 5 of the trucks that I can get to that area of the market. I don't have 2 trucks. So I'm going to go back and build the trucks in order to meet this bid. So there's a lot of complexity that goes into this. And it teaches them a lot because they're capturing all the data now. Because, naturally, with a digital person doing it, they got all of it. Nothing's written on a piece of paper anywhere. Everything's in the system. So they've got a full picture of the client experience. And ultimately, that's what everyone's going for. Everyone's trying to figure out how do I create a superior client experience where people just keep spending money with me over and over. And the way to do that is with one operating platform. You got to have one operating model to be able to accommodate that. That's where digital.
There's so much to unpack there, but the first point I want to make is you're getting in there and helping people with it. So what you've got to teach these LED trucks is in between, please put up, follow the podcast, right? So if anyone right now is following a truck with a thing about this podcast on it, please, let us know. We've been successful. We know it's worked. But in all seriousness, though, I mean, how difficult is that initial programming, for want of a better term, to say that, to give it the master bit of contained knowledge of this is what you've got to operate within, and how does that actually work? And I mean, that the other part of that is, where is that actually sitting? Is that sitting internally on a server, or is that still on an external thing, but it's contained? So a couple of bits to unpack in that.
Yeah, the IP is ours. Where it sits is in their digital data hub. Normally what we would do is go in and deploy in that environment digital data hub. That's theirs. It's us licensing it out. So it's basically licensed out. And then basically all we're doing is building them a workforce that they decide from that. If they decide we need a workforce, then we help them build out that workforce. So, if you think about what we're doing, we're going into environments in a lot of cases that are struggling with data. It's all over the place in silos. We're going, hey, that's dysfunctional. So, we're here. We're going to help you build this digital data hub, and we're going to pull in all the data and get that done. And we try to do that in short order. That's usually, we're sprinting for 90 days to try to get to where we can pull all the data into that centralized, that single source of truth, so to speak. The minute we get that in place, now it kind of depends too, because in some cases we'll have 2 teams. Like right now, we got a client that we got 2 teams running. We got our team that went in and that's going in and deploying the digital data hub, and even starting to frame it up for a couple of digital people in that environment. And then we got another team that's actually going through the digital maturity experience with the client. As they go through that, they're identifying opportunities to leverage digital people and digital workforce in that exercise. So by the time we complete a digital maturity experience, and those are usually about 12 weeks. So you're really talking about 12 weeks, something around, within 6 months, people can go through and properly have their whole organization completely redesigned and have a digital workforce in place in multiple areas of the business, and streamline a lot of the human effort that's going into the rest of it, if that makes sense. And so that's kind of what we've trying to create being known for the people that can get in and get proof to value really quickly. And when you think about, some of the really big organizations in the world that go out and do management consulting and all this digital consultancy and all that kind of stuff, a lot of cases, those roadmaps are 18, 24 months. Ours, we usually say, how quick can we get to value? We want to show value as quickly as possible, because when we do that, we know that people go, oh my gosh, these guys understand us. And in a lot of cases, when we're going in, we're seeing it clearer than they are, because we've walked in and out of environments where it exists. And we literally, it's not uncommon for us to leave a meeting and go, man, those guys are a lot like so-and-so when we started working. It's like we got the experience of going, yeah, I remember they were like this. Yeah, we're probably going to have trouble with this group. We're really going to have to work with them. They're going to need a lot of extra hand-holding. And so we can identify some of that.
I think that's important, an important asset to have, because there is so much out there at the moment, right? And that's the tempting thing that many people have. And we've kind of spoken about it in previous episodes, but it's like, you can see anywhere, get this lot of, AI agents and, deploy them. I saw one recently advertised where you can buy, there was a subscription and you get 75 of them. And I'm going, oh my goodness, I'm going to need some super AI agent to be able to manage the other AI agents that are in there. I can barely remember the name of the team that I've got now. I don't want another 75 that is sitting in there that I've got to work out how to deploy and use. And I think that's one of the keys here with all of this, because it comes back to, trying to get a business to a certain point, is that having that expertise to come in and say, this is what you need. We can deploy this. Now we're showing you how to use it. It's yours to use, but it's, you don't have to waste your time on trying to work out what you need and how to use it.
Yeah. And it's because we've ran through organization to organization. Look, at the end of the day, most organizations are the same. They have revenue at the top and profit at the bottom. They got a bunch of stuff that they have to build and deliver. And so, there's a lot of things that go in between that, but most are the same. We tend to fall back on a lot of cases. Case studies help us a lot, because now we've got, really good case studies from clients that have gone through it. It's easy for me to say, hey, Anthony, call John over here and talk to John about what we do with his organization, because it seems like you're kind of in a similar place that he was. And I had a feeling he'll probably give you some insight on some things that were eye-opening to him through the process. And so it just gives an additional, resource that says, okay, Jim thinks I need to talk. By the time they talk to John, they come back and say, oh, okay, I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And so, when it comes in and doing that, I mean, do you allow them ownership to name these things as well as that, and to give it that personality? Is that part of the process and making, because it's kind of weird getting used to this idea of living with something that is digital, that's, that is, I was going to say living and breathing, but it is to a degree, right?
Yep. Yeah, we've taken it to the extreme intentionally. And the main reason is because we said, hey, it almost needs to be maybe not emotionally nurtured the way that you nurture an employee, but very similar nurtured like you nurture an employee. In other words, evaluating the processes, going back in and saying, okay, what it doesn't need to be, and this is the thing that we're really bullish on. What we don't want it to be is a digital person that goes in that does the same thing for the next 5 years, because we know that would not have been a success. Business changes too fast. You're not going to keep things the same for 5 years. There's going to be other data points they're going to need to access. There's going to be additional rules that they're going to need to follow. There's going to be different things that happen. And so that's the reason we said, look, we're going to name these people, put them to work for us, have them work for us internally. So then we have people that can do the work for us. And then eventually, as we start rolling these out to clients, we'll have a proven model that allows them to get the results that they need. And we're on best case study.
So when you're building this digital workforce, and I imagine that as you're sort of talking about it, you've got these ones that are sitting within different parts of the teams. Are they actually talking to each other as well? Or if you've got someone sitting digitally in an operation side versus a sales side versus, et cetera, are those digital assets talking to each other and indeed talking to someone that holds the master key, for want of a better term?
They'll completely communicate with one another. I won't tell you they're talking to one another, but I will tell you, because I don't think I've seen that yet, but we do have them orchestrating together. It's no different than having, especially in supply chain. We've done a lot of this in supply chain. So you'll have have a supply chain plan. You'll have production planners, all these different people that serve these different roles. Those are really good for us. And in environments, we got a couple of environments with clients where they're interacting consistently with one another. There's an oversight level of the leadership team to be able to see everything going on, because it's all data anyway. But absolutely, they're orchestrating with each other and executing. And that's the idea, Anthony. If you think about, I think I mentioned to you in a podcast, probably last year, about the book, The AI Driven Leader, that Jeff Woods down in Austin published this book. I've read it a couple of years ago. Great book, great book. And it actually captured what he shared in there was around, he said, look, we're the thought leaders. We as human beings are the thought leaders. AI can be our thought partner. That's how we use the digital people almost. They're a thought partner for us. So it's almost like, the analogy we use when we go into an organization is, if you had a team working for you right now, what would you want that team to be able to do? And this could be to someone that has no one reporting to them today. So it helps them shift their thinking, and they start thinking like leaders. They start thinking more like, oh, okay, if I did have the ability to do that, here's what I might do. And it actually helps them get to a place of identifying, oh my gosh, this is that one thing that I've heard the CEO mention 2 or 3 times that I think I can do myself, but I've never been willing to put myself out there to try to go and do it because I've got this workload I've got to take care of. Well, if I can get this workload taken care of, I've done this before in a different environment, and I think I can make the CEO really proud, make our company really proud too, if I could go accomplish this. And I'm using that from an example, but it's really the thinking that goes on in the company. It allows everybody to start elevating and thinking as leaders. Now you've got the ability to have people that work for you. What do you want those people to do? And what results can they achieve by doing those types of things?
Yeah, I know. It's getting people to wrap their heads around all of this and to work with it. I mean, you talked about kind of that joking environment and testing it out, but how is that communication actually sitting there in a meeting? Is that, from a visual point of view, is it typing things in? Is it speaking? What does that look like in a meeting sense? And when you go from the fun to the actual serious mechanics of it?
In most of the meeting sets, it's not as much, and I'm going to say like on Teams type meetings, most cases they're attending the meeting, capturing the notes, documenting the details of the meeting. They may interact some. And look, this is all, we're 18 months into this. So just imagine 18 months from now, I think this will evolve a lot. But right now, it's really more of what most people are doing is going after the low-hanging fruit, which is where are the repetitive, mundane tasks that take place that are decently too complex to give to just anyone, but that we can at least document the process and give them the governance to go make those decisions. And that's what most people do. Most of our clients, at least so far, have been focused on that, less on can they show up at a meeting. Now, we do have some that show up to meetings, on Teams meetings and all that, and they'll interact. So it's not like they're not built to interact, but they're not as much interact. It's not like they're bringing a lot of the value to the meeting. The data's everything that you knew about them, you knew coming in because all the data is 100%. You're not getting on saying, hey, be sure and enter your information in CRM. Nope, they entered it. They entered it at the moment that everything was taking place. It was already entered. So you don't have to, with the people element, we have to remember we're still human beings. We're imperfect humans. And so it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry, Anthony, I forgot to enter that data in CRM last week. I'll get it updated by the end of the day today. No, you don't have to worry about that on digital people.
I'll tell you what, it's a really good opportunity as we wrap up this part of the discussion to mention to people that there's going to be a workbook that's associated with every episode we're doing of the podcast, but I want to talk about it in this particular one because it's going to use what it's learned from what you've been speaking about in this episode and turn it into a workbook so people can follow along and get not only some key quotes, but some action steps that they might be able to take. So it actually is an example of an AI agent learning from what's being said, using that information and giving it something practical for people to follow along with. So a good example to kind of wrap things up, and we'll put some details in the show notes of how they can download it.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for tuning in. That's all we have time for in this episode. But next time, Jim explains the Digital Data Hub and why Cooperative Computing built it to help organizations get to proof of value faster. You'll learn how connected data makes a digital people more useful, why traditional data projects can take too long, and how businesses can start actioning the right data in months rather than years. We've created a workbook to accompany this episode with questions for you to answer, key quotes, and some action steps to follow. Check out the show notes for the link to be able to download it. Also there, you'll find resources and more details from today's episode, including how to get in touch with Cooperative Computing. This podcast is produced by my team at podcastdoneforyou.com.au, helping professionals share their expertise through powerful podcast content. If you found value in today's episode, wherever you're tuning in, please like, share, comment, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And remember, if you want the best from your business, you need to get enabled digitally.